In the winter of 1959, a group of 9 experienced hikers entered the northern Ural Mountains. They were young, physically prepared, and trained for extreme conditions. Their route crossed exposed terrain, far from settlements, where weather dictated survival and mistakes carried permanent consequences. They never returned. At first, nothing about the expedition appeared unusual. The group moved methodically through snow-covered ridgelines, maintaining discipline and pace. Their equipment was adequate. Their experience was documented. This was not a reckless journey. It was a planned traversal of hostile terrain by people who understood risk. The final campsite was established on an open slope, exposed to wind and cold. The decision to camp there has been debated, but the physical evidence shows deliberate preparation. Snow was compacted, the tent was secured against the incline. No sign of panic or urgency was present at that stage. Then, during the night, something changed. The tent was torn open from the inside. The damage was not consistent with routine exit. Long, jagged slashes cut through the fabric, compromising the shelter at the worst possible moment. Wind and snow entered freely. Structural integrity failed quickly. The group did not exit in an orderly way. They left behind boots, heavy clothing, and essential gear, items no trained hiker would willingly abandon in sub-zero conditions. Outside, footprints led away from the tent. The trail descended the slope toward the forest below. The prints were uneven. Some showed boots, others suggested socks or bare feet. Spacing was inconsistent, but the direction was unified. No signs of running were present. No chaotic scattering of tracks suggested a frantic escape. The movement appeared controlled but strained, as if driven by necessity rather than choice. The footprints did not return. At the forest edge, the first bodies were later discovered near a partially burned tree. Their clothing was incomplete and mismatched. Skin showed clear signs of exposure. Hands were frozen into unnatural positions. Evidence suggested attempts to generate heat, but no sustained fire. These deaths were consistent with hypothermia, but the context was not. Further into a ravine nearby, more bodies were eventually found beneath accumulated snow. These victims were dressed more heavily, wearing clothing that appeared to have been taken from others. Their positions suggested delayed survival rather than immediate collapse. Time had passed between deaths. What drew immediate attention were the injuries. Several victims suffered massive internal trauma, crushed rib cages, severe skull damage, in some cases internal injuries comparable to those caused by high-speed impacts. Yet there were no corresponding external wounds. No lacerations, no bloodstains, no signs of collision with rocks or trees. The terrain did not explain the force required to cause such damage. The ravine was shallow, snow layering was intact, there was no debris field, no avalanche scars, no displaced earth, no evidence of a violent fall or compressive flow. The environment appeared incapable of producing the injuries observed. Weather conditions were severe but consistent with the region. Wind was strong but predictable. Snow accumulation showed no signs of sudden release. Meteorological analysis later suggested exposure was lethal, but exposure alone did not account for broken bones without surface trauma. Time complicated everything. Weeks passed before the final bodies were found. Snow filled depressions, evidence softened then vanished. The mountain reclaimed the scene with mechanical indifference. What remained was a fragmented record, pieces preserved, connections erased. The investigation reflected this fragmentation. Documents existed, but gaps dominated. Observation windows appeared, then disappeared. Some findings were emphasized, others quietly excluded. No single narrative stabilized. Hypotheses multiplied, but none resolved all contradictions. Each explanation accounted for one aspect while ignoring others. Natural causes explained exposure, but not trauma. Avalanche theories failed against terrain evidence. Human conflict lacked supporting signs. The case did not collapse under scrutiny, it dissolved. Over time, Dyatlov Pass became less a mystery to be solved and more a boundary to be acknowledged. It demonstrated how events can be thoroughly documented yet remain fundamentally incomplete, how environments erase intent, how time dismantles sequence, how evidence accumulates without converging. Today, the slope looks unchanged. Snow falls as it always has. Wind moves across the ridgelines without memory. The forest conceals and reveals nothing. No markers indicate where the group last stood together. The incident persists not because answers are hidden, but because the conditions required to connect them no longer exist. Dyatlov Pass remains unresolved, not through secrecy, but through erosion. Erosion of context, erosion of continuity, erosion of certainty. The hikers disappeared into the same forces they set out to challenge. What remains is not a solution, but a limit, where investigation ends and uncertainty becomes permanent. If you want to continue exploring mysteries where reality fractures without explanation, subscribe to the channel and join us in the next episode, Time Slip: People Who Claim They Accidentally Stepped into Another Time.